My mind rebels at stagnation. Give me problems. Give me work. Give me the most abstruse cryptogram or the most intricate analysis, and I am in my own proper atmosphere. But I abhor the dull routine of existence. I crave for mental exaltation. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Hello and welcome to the Proper Atmosphere powered by Soul Performance Academy. I am your host, Dan Mickle, and the Proper Atmosphere is a weekly podcast focused on answering your questions about mental performance, coaching, and lifelong learning. And as always, the Proper Atmosphere is sponsored by It's Called Normal Athletics, making the extraordinary ordinary through adaptive beach volleyball. Check out the 501c3's website at icnathletics.com. And we are on episode 22, The Shy Introvert. And our question comes from Sarah, a field hockey player in Pennsylvania. And she wrote in, I'm a very shy introvert. I think my coach and my teammates believe I don't trust or like them. What can I do? Well, as an introvert myself, Sarah, I think we can walk through this a little bit and find some ways to help you, but also help educate your teammates and your coach and how they can work with you and how they can better benefit and get the most out of you, and you also get the most out of your team and your coaches. A couple of things that we want to look at first, though, is most athletes are the same on the field as they are off the field. We hear these stories a lot of times about, oh, that person's shy, but when they get on the field or the court, all of a sudden this, switch flips and they're a completely different person. And while that does happen at times, it's pretty rare. Mostly what you get off the court is also what you get on the court. So we got to get through this notion that we're not going to magically change you, Sarah, or you're not going to magically change and become something that you're not on the field. All right. What we want to look at is what are your strengths that you bring in your current form and that you can grow in to help the program and help yourself enjoy it more. Because I understand completely, as being an introvert, how challenging and draining it can be, especially if you're on a team that has a lot of extroverts. It can be pretty draining, which obviously affects your cognitive function and your decision making and your gameplay. So I get where we're coming from. Another thing to remember is there are some great examples of introverted, excellent players before you. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods are all examples of pretty much introverted personalities that became superstars in their sports, right? And again, it was more about using it as a strength than trying to quote unquote fix or change them. And we have to remember, and this is, I think, the part that most people that aren't introverts don't get, is how draining it can be to be an introvert in a sport and around a lot of extroverts, because we put on this, mask of being the team player and being outgoing, because if we're quiet and we're shy, we get labeled as we don't care or we're not putting in the same effort. And it can be extremely draining. And then adding on the physical and the mental aspect of your sport and what you're playing on top of that, it can be really tough. So I think that's a side that people don't really see if you're not an introvert, is just how hard it can be being an introvert. And what we want to do is we want to play to your strengths. So how can we use what strengths you bring as an introvert to a program and how that can strengthen your relationship with your teammates and your coach, but then also how that can help your team grow and be successful. And it really starts first with accept who you are. Don't try and change it. Being an introvert is not a bad thing. Just like being an extrovert is not a bad thing. It's who you are. But if you spend the time trying to fix or change who you are, you're going to have a lot of wasted energy and a lot of frustration. Embrace where you're at. Now, that's not to say that changes. I feel I was probably a lot more extroverted in high school and right out of college than I am now. So over time, I've probably shied more into the introvert role. And luckily, I'm what you, I guess, would consider a functioning introvert. I can get up and I can speak and I can talk in front of people, but it is draining. Anytime I do a presentation or a keynote, man, I'll sleep for a day because it literally is that physically draining for me, worrying about that whole aspect of what I need to do. So we just need to accept that. Let's not battle it. Let's just accept that Sarah, you're the introvert, and I'm going to shine in that role, and that's how I'm going to do it. All right. So we need to leverage your strengths. And some of the strengths that introverts have are they're really good listeners and they're usually really good helping hands. So that's the role that you should look for in your team. How can you help and listen to people and be that person that people come to when they need help? You're not going to be the first one to run out on the field and act all crazy, but you are absolutely going to be probably the first one there when someone's down or having a problem and they need to reach out for someone. That's just the way introverts work. We like being the helping hand and like helping people and like being there. Again, that is absolutely not saying that extroverts don't have that quality. This is not a this or that type of discussion or situation. This is just how we can play those strengths. And I think that's probably the biggest strength that you can bring. And you can work with your coach on that. Ask your coach how you can help alleviate some of their stress. How can you actually help maybe take some of their problems off of their plate? And maybe you work with the team, or you help run drills, or you help run a part of practice. Again, a little bit of that will be stepping out of your comfort zone, probably, right, as an introvert, being in front of your team and running it. But the helping part and wanting to help and grow will probably trump that and let you kind of push through that. Another great strength of introverts is usually organization. So are there parts of practice or the program where you can insert yourself to help with the organization of things, whether it's travel, with meals, breaking up drills and creating teams? Maybe you can help with that organization. That's a good strength, and that'll give you more worth. And it'll also show your team that you are invested in that team. You do want to be part of that team. But again, it can be tough. After a big grueling match, you just want to sit on the end of the bench and kind of take it all in. And people think that you're either upset or you don't care. And so you have to find those places where you can interject yourself and really show, hey, look, I am part of this team and I'm giving my all to it. Another thing is, don't be afraid to take the space you need. Don't be afraid that when it gets overwhelming, taking a step back a little bit and just saying, hey, I need to wrap my head around this. I need to clear my head. This is a little bit too much for me. A lot of times, the problem that introverts have are we want to continue to push because we don't want to be labeled as lazy or not invested or not interested. So even when we're running on complete empty and our battery light is flashing, we still want to push through because we don't want to get labeled that, and we want to prove our worth to the team and the coach. And we end up just completely draining ourselves. So we have to be careful that we're not overdoing it and we're not going past our limits. We need to take that time to recharge. That's just part of what an introvert does. On the flip side, an extrovert usually gets most of their energy from other people. So they're going to push themselves in front of people and try and get the crowd going with them and be more of a galvanizing force because that's where they get their energy from. And introverts tend to be the opposite. We get our energy from solitude, recouping, taking a moment, recollecting our thoughts. All right. So don't be afraid to build that into how you practice and how you work, building in those thoughts and those ideas. And then my last tip is kind of what we already touched on, is don't be afraid to help train the team. Don't be afraid to help try and insert yourself. Again, talk with your coach. I'm not saying just go out there and start running drills, but talk to your coach and say, hey, how can I help run this team for you? How can I help, get everyone going on the same page? Are there certain drills that I can run? Can I keep some certain stats? Or, can I help organize things? But insert yourself a little bit to help train the team. Again, that goes to the core value that introverts really do like to help other people. So helping coach your team not only helps you with your teammates, but also gives you that sense that you're helping your coach out, taking some of the load off of your coach and giving them room to breathe. All right. So again, these are things that you have to talk with. You just want to go out there and start bossing around the team and running these drills without talking to your coach. But look for ways that you could help and maybe, sort of athlete coach a little bit on the field, on the court, in the pool, wherever you're at. All right. Then, so as we start to wrap this up, we have to remind ourselves that there have been a lot of great players. I mentioned it earlier, Jordan, Kobe, Tiger, that were all considered introverts. But if you look at them, one of the best things that they all did was they were mentors to other players. They helped people come up. Sure, they were the focal point of the teams and they wanted the ball most of the time, but they also wanted to better everyone around them. And it was that drive that helped them succeed as an introvert, that drive of getting everyone better. So use those. There's tons of them. Susan Cain has a great book called Quiet, and it's about athletes and just introverts in the world. And I think it would be a great read, especially if you're introverted and trying to navigate this. And props to you for figuring out so early, where you might lie and how you might want to work on things. Because a lot of people wait till it's too late. Their careers are over and they feel like they've never fulfilled what they could have done because they didn't realize that they were introverted and the problems that they were running into. So that would be a great book to pick up. Keep in mind that you don't need to change. You don't need to become an extrovert. Being an extrovert isn't going to make you succeed anymore. You need to play to your strengths and work your life around your style and how much of an introvert. And it's a scale. Some people are extremely introverted. And some people are like myself. I guess I consider myself a functioning introvert where, it's uncomfortable, but I can get through it. So you need to not worry about changing and just focus on where you're at and how you can bring what you are to betterment of the team, how you can use your skills to help better the team around you. Focus on those strengths. Don't focus so much on changing your weaknesses in that personality space. Now, again, we're talking about the introvert and the extrovert side of things, not the skill side of things. I'm certainly not saying don't work on, your weaknesses when it comes to your sport or your activity. I'm saying when it comes to the introvertness and extrovertness, focus on those strengths. And then lastly is make sure that you schedule and train the ways that benefit you. Make sure that you figure out how you can take those breaks, how you can step away from things and just calm things down and continue to, play at your best level as an introvert. Work on how you can make your practice environment and your game environment the best for you. All right, so that wraps it up. Again, thank you, Sarah from Pennsylvania, for writing in about being a shy introvert and how we can work on it. I hope this helps you out. As always, you can reach out and let me know if you have any more questions. Check in, let me know how it's going. And for everyone else, you can reach us at podcast@properatmosphere.com. You can visit the website, properatmosphere.com. Reach us across all social media at Real Dan Mickle or at 717 Soul. Make sure you check out ICN Athletics at icnathletics.com, and would love to get some more questions in there. And feel free to reach out, and hopefully we can make an episode and help you out in your journey, whatever that may be. Peace, much love, don't suck, and remember, it's one day or day one, your choice. See you all next week.